We've been using literal translation matrices, Lim explained, pulling up her data. But human language is filled with idioms, sarcasm, and cultural context. Let me show you. The hologram displayed a human video they'd labeled extreme self-harm behavior. But with Lim's corrected translation, the subtitles now read, "Best day ever, this roller coaster was amazing, can't wait to go again." It's not self-harm, Lim continued, her voice gaining strength. It's entertainment. They enjoy challenging their bodies and minds. What we called voluntary pain, they call fun. Council member Kang leaned forward. But the fighting? The aggressive gatherings? Sports, Lim said simply. Organized competition. With rules and referees. Watch this football match again with proper context. The screen showed what they'd previously interpreted as ritualistic combat. Now they could see the structure, teams, goals, scorekeeping, and celebration afterward, and the mass arguments on social media? Asked Tactical Officer Young. Debate, discussion. Sometimes arguments, yes, but mostly just people sharing opinions and connecting with others. It's how they socialize. The algorithm shows us the most dramatic examples, but most human interaction is peaceful. Senior Advisor. Huang stood up. What about Black Friday? We witnessed clear violence over consumer goods. Shopping, Lim replied, pulling up the footage with new annotations. Competitive shopping during sales. Yes, some behave poorly, but look, security guards maintain order, most people wait patiently, and it's a tiny fraction of their population. The room buzzed with confused murmurs. Lim continued her presentation. The horror movies they watch? Fiction for entertainment. The extreme sports? Calculated risks with safety equipment for the thrill. The reality TV? Dramatic entertainment, not real conflict. But surely the hacking of our systems proves malicious intent, Captain Kwan interjected. Lim almost laughed. The teenager who breached our communications was showing off to friends. It's what human adolescents do. They test boundaries, share knowledge, and yes, show off their skills. She wasn't attacking us. She was trying to impress her peers while making friends with us. The council chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. So they're not insane? Council member Zhang asked quietly. They're the opposite, Lim explained. They're incredibly creative, social, and diverse. They push boundaries because they're curious. They compete because it brings them closer together. They argue because they care about ideas. And they immediately reached out to us because humans are fundamentally optimistic and social creatures. Ambassador Yoon rubbed his temples. The welcome messages, the pizza offers, the technology sharing. They want to be friends, Lim confirmed. From the moment we made contact, they've been trying to welcome us, offer us gifts, and share knowledge. We've been interpreting hospitality as hostility. Observer Kim raised his hand. But our preliminary assessments showed. You were looking for threats, so you found threats, Lim interrupted gently. You saw chaos where there was actually organized creativity. You saw conflict where there was competition and debate. You saw self-harm where there was self-improvement. The room remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Senior Advisor Huang spoke. So we've been hiding from enthusiastic potential friends who've been trying to improve our technology and offer us pizza, Ambassador Yoon added, a note of amazement in his voice. What do we do now? Captain Kwan asked. We apologize, Lim said firmly. We meet them properly, and we learn from them. Because if there's one thing humans do better than anyone, it's turn strangers into friends. 6 months later, the Galactic Council had a new department, the Human Cultural Education Center. Lim became its first director. Earth's enthusiasm had become the galactic standard for diplomatic outreach, though council members still jumped. When humans suggested fun activities like paintball or karaoke, they'd learned to embrace the chaos. Some even wore baseball caps to meetings and had started consuming something called coffee. The greatest misunderstanding in galactic history had become its greatest success story. And humans? They were exactly what the galaxy needed. Friends who brought pizza, shared technology, and reminded everyone that the universe was meant to be explored with joy, not fear. Though council therapy sessions still ran twice weekly, attendance was now voluntary. Most attendees were there to discuss their newfound addiction to human entertainment and social media. Ring began. Doubt crept into his mind. Maintain the quarantine, he ordered, but his voice lacked conviction. But begin reassessing our interpretation of human behavior. Maybe we missed something important. As the command crew returned to their duties, each carried the same uncomfortable thought. In all their preparations for hostile first contact, they'd never considered that humans might simply be friendly. Tactical Officer Young stood at his console, sweating through his uniform. The calming probe had launched 3 hours ago, designed to emit soothing frequencies that would quiet the humans while the council decided what to do next. Incoming enemy fire, he screamed as alarms blared throughout the command deck. Multiple launch sites, South Korea, United States, China, they're all firing. The probe disappeared in a brilliant flash. Council member Choi rushed to the tactical display, his face is paling. They destroyed our peaceful mission. This proves they're aggressive lunatics. But something strange happened next. Instead of more missiles, recovery teams rushed to the crash sites. Humans in official uniforms carefully collected every piece of debris, placing them in special containers. Why aren't they preparing for war? Chief Science Officer Wu whispered. The answer came within hours. A human girl in Incheon, no more than 16 cycles old, had established a live transmission. She stood beside the crash site, excitement bubbling in her voice. Guys, this is insane, she said into her recording device. Real alien tech. Look at these crystal matrix structures. I think they use quantum field harmonics for data transfer. She's analyzing our technology, Communications Officer Bay reported, disbelief coloring her voice. A child, a human child, is reverse engineering our quantum probe. Sir, Technician Lee shouted from his station. Multiple human facilities are already 3D printing what appear to be working replicas of our probe components. They've shared the schematics globally, for free. Captain Kwan gripped his command chair. How is this possible? That technology took our best minds centuries to develop. It gets worse, Bay continued. We're receiving thousands of communication attempts. They're not demands to surrender or threats. They're design improvement suggestions. The main screen displayed a flood of human messages. Hey aliens, cool probe. But your power distribution seems inefficient. Have you tried plasma field coupling? Love the anti-grav tech. We made some improvements. Want to trade notes? Your materials science is fascinating. We've identified 17 elements we don't have. Coffee trade? Pizza offer still stands. Also, we fixed the resonance issue in your probe design. Ambassador Yoon stared at the messages scrolling past. They're treating our advanced technology like a science project, a collaborative one. Ambassador, Lieutenant Park burst into the command center. Our communication array, someone's breached it. Every alien in the room tensed for war. Instead, they found a simple message blinking on their secure channel. Hi. Sorry for hacking your system, was just messing around and found your chat room. My name's Kim from San Francisco. This is super cool. Are you the ones who sent the probe? Thanks for sharing. Can I ask what you eat? Do you like pizza? The silence in the control room was deafening. A human teenager, Chief Engineer Hong said slowly, just casually hacked into our military-grade communication system while messing around. And her first concern is our dietary preferences, added Captain Kwan, sinking into his chair. More messages flooded their systems. Hey Kim, I'm Lee from Seoul. Did you see the anti-grav specs? We should totally collaborate. Room for more hackers? Name's Park from Berlin. Has anyone figured out their math system yet? The Council's private channels, which took months of authorization to access, had become a human chat room within hours. Young humans casually discussed probe technology, shared memes, and offered snacks to unknown aliens. Sir, Tactical Officer Young reported weekly, Earth's military has stood down from high alert. They're classifying this as a technological exchange opportunity. Several governments are preparing official first contact protocols. Official protocols? Yoon repeated. Yes, sir. The United Nations has called an emergency session, but not for war preparations. They're debating whether to officially invite us to join something called the Interspecies Technology Share Initiative. They've already created presentation materials. Observer Kim looked up from his station. Ambassador, we need to reassess everything. Look at this. The screen showed Earth's response to the probe incident. Instead of fear, humans had organized. Scientists collaborated across borders. Governments coordinated peacefully. Children made drawings of friendly aliens. The girl who'd live-streamed the crash site was now teaching viewers about xenoarchaeology. They're not insane, Kim said quietly. They're just different. They turned our probe into an educational opportunity and our security breach into a chance to make friends. Ambassador Yoon rubbed his temples with two of his hands. What have we started? They're not just welcoming us. They're already trying to improve our technology and share their pizza, whatever that is. Should we maintain quarantine, sir? Captain Kwan asked. Yoon looked at the screen showing human enthusiasm, collaboration, and genuine excitement. I think, he said slowly, it might be too late for quarantine. They've already decided we're friends. As if on cue, a new message appeared on their main screen. Seriously though, when can we hang out? Earth is awesome. You'll love it here. Council intern Lim hadn't slept in days. While senior council members panicked about the human threat, she'd been working alone, replaying every single Earth transmission. Something felt wrong about their interpretation. At 2 a.m. Galactic Standard Time, hunched over her translation console, she made a discovery that would change everything. Wait, she whispered to herself, then louder. Wait! She burst into the emergency council session, interrupting senior advisor Huang mid-sentence. The translation, she shouted. We've been translating it all wrong. The entire council turned to stare at the exhausted intern. What are you saying? Ambassador Yoon asked, irritation clear in his voice. Humans stuffed enormous quantities of food into their mouths, often to the point of visible discomfort or illness, while crowds cheered them on. They compete to see who can consume the most, Park explained. The winners receive small prizes, worth far less than the medical care they likely require afterward. Observer Han raised her communication device. I have more evidence of their collective instability. They engage in mass gatherings they call sports events. Tens of thousands squeeze into confined spaces to watch a small number of humans chase various objects around marked areas. The display showed a football stadium filled with fans. The crowd's behavior caught everyone's attention. Faces painted in bizarre patterns, bodies adorned with strange symbols, voices raised in coordinated yelling that seemed more like battle cries than celebration. The strangest part, Han continued, is their loyalty to these arbitrary teams. They form deep emotional attachments to organizations that have no actual impact on their lives. We documented instances of humans weeping, shouting, and even destroying property based on the outcomes of these games. Property destruction brings us to our next category, Kim said, pulling up footage of what humans called Black Friday. The council watched as organized society appeared to collapse. Humans pushed, shoved, and sometimes physically fought over commercial goods that were slightly reduced in price. Note the irony, Park pointed out. They have global supply chains ensuring availability of all necessary items, yet they choose to engage in combat for minor savings on luxury goods. The evidence continued mounting. Humans deliberately frightened themselves with horror movies, voluntarily rode mechanical devices designed to simulate falling and spinning, and engaged in activities with names like skydiving and bungee jumping that seemed specifically engineered to trigger survival instincts. Their music alone could be considered psychological warfare, Observer Choi contributed. We've cataloged 17 subgenres, some of which consist primarily of screaming and sounds that our instruments classify as pure noise. Senior advisor Huang studied all the data carefully. The pattern is clear. This species has evolved beyond the need for external threats, so they create their own. Every aspect of their culture seems designed to generate stress, conflict, and physical discomfort. But why would evolution select for such behavior? Council member Song asked. That's what terrifies me, Huang replied solemnly. If these stress-seeking, conflict-generating, pain-pursuing beings have survived and thrived, imagine how they'll behave when faced with actual threats. We can't let them discover they're being watched. Their unpredictability makes them the greatest potential danger we've ever encountered. The council agreed unanimously. The humans would remain under strict quarantine until they could determine how to handle a species that seemed to thrive on chaos. Retry SF technician Han watched her console as the containment field powered up. Every number showed green. Perfect alignment. The barrier would block all Earth communications from reaching the wider galaxy, protecting everyone from humanity's apparent madness. Field activation in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the final button. Immediately, warning lights flashed across her station. Contact interference detected. We're blocking something called GPS. First Officer Bayek moved to her console. What's their response? That's odd. Han frowned at the readings. No panic. No riots. They're recalibrating their systems and working together. On the observation screens, they watched Earth's major space agencies spring into action. Instead of chaos, scientists from different countries began coordinating. Dr. Li and Seoul opened communication lines with Dr. Park in Geneva, both connected with facilities in Houston, Tokyo, and Moscow. They're collaborating? Officer Bayek asked, confused. But they're different tribes, different languages. They should be blaming each other. Council member Choi arrived at the observation deck just as Earth's first transmission reached them. The message was simple, direct, and completely unexpected. Hello? We detected your signal. Are you attempting communication? We're excited to meet you. The control room fell silent. Every alien present stared at the message display. Excited? Choi whispered. They should be terrified. We've interfered with their technology. According to our research, they're violent and unpredictable. Why aren't they preparing weapons? Another message arrived within minutes. This time it included basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and pictorial representations of their solar system. They're trying to establish universal communication protocols, Communications Officer Jung reported, her tentacles trembling. This is standard first contact procedure. But they're supposed to be insane. The situation escalated when humans began broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Instead of military coordination, they sent, "We've prepared a welcome package. Music, mathematics, art samples, and peace offerings. Could you lower your containment field so we can transmit properly?" They know it's a containment field, Captain Kwan shouted, his scales shifting to alarm colors. How do they know? We're using technology they shouldn't be able to detect. Ambassador Yoon entered the command center, reading reports on his device. Worse news. They've begun what? They call first contact preparation parties. Millions of humans are gathering to celebrate potential alien contact. They're treating this as a positive event. The observation screen showed scenes from Earth. People holding welcome alien signs, children drawing pictures of friendly spacecraft, scientists giving interviews about the excitement of cosmic friendship. This doesn't match our data at all, Observer Kim muttered, reviewing his extensive files. They should be forming battle lines, stockpiling weapons, preparing for war. Instead, they're celebrating? Another transmission arrived. We understand if you need time. Please don't worry if our military tracked your position. They're just doing their job. Our scientists would love to arrange proper introduction when you're ready. Also, are you receiving hunger signals? We can beam information about Earth food if that helps. Food offers? Tactician Wu looked at his colleagues in bewilderment. During first contact, what kind of species offers food to unknown entities? Human broadcasts continued streaming in. News anchors discussed potential benefits of alien technology. Scientists debated peaceful applications of advanced energy fields. Children's shows taught basic alien greeting phrases using hand signals and simple sounds. Captain, Technician Seo reported, they're trying to modify our containment field to make it more efficient. They've sent engineering suggestions to reduce power consumption. They're helping us maintain our quarantine field? Captain Kwan's Voice rose an octave. This is impossible. The final transmission of the day included video messages from Earth leaders, scientists, and regular citizens. Each message expressed the same themes: curiosity, hope, and genuine welcome. The humans seemed genuinely thrilled at the possibility of meeting new friends from the stars. As Ambassador Yoon watched the last message, a group of children singing a song about making friends with aliens, he felt something he hadn't experienced during all his years of diplomatic service: confusion mixed with guilt. "Sir," Communications Officer Jung asked quietly, "what if we were wrong? What if they're not insane? What if we're the ones misunderstanding?" Yoon looked at the smiling faces on the screen, at the welcome signs, at the genuine excitement in human eyes. For the first time since Monato, the silence in the massive council chamber felt heavy as Ambassador Yoon stared at the holographic display. His 6 eyes blinked rapidly while he watched what the aliens called human entertainment. On the screen, a human male wearing strange fabric coverings launched himself off a cliff while screaming and laughing at the same time. What is this?" Council member Kang whispered, his shell trembling. "They jump from high places for pleasure?" The transmission shifted to show dozens of humans pushing each other with wheeled platforms attached to their feet. Blood streamed from their faces, yet they continued, shouting what the translators labeled as encouragement to each other. "By the stars," breathed Lee, the council's expert on alien psychology. "They deliberately harm themselves, and others celebrate it." More images flickered across the screen. Humans eating extremely hot substances, their faces turning red while tears streamed down their cheeks, but they kept eating. Others lifted impossibly heavy objects until their arms shook, then did it again. And again. "This cannot be normal behavior," Senior Advisor Huang declared, adjusting his ceremonial robes. "We must investigate further before making contact. If this is representative of their species." The screen changed to show what humans labeled news programs. The council members watched in growing horror as humans screamed at each other about topics ranging from weather patterns to food preparation methods. Some even threw objects across rooms while discussing what they called politics. "They're constantly in conflict," Observer Kim noted, taking rapid notes. "Even in their places of rest, they create conflict." The next transmission showed a gathering. Humans called a concert. Thousands of beings pressed together in a confined space, all screaming sounds that the translator couldn't quite identify as music or battle cries. Many bounced violently, while others engaged in something the captions called moshing. "Are they dancing or fighting?" Council member Jang asked, confusion evident in his voice. "I cannot distinguish." "Both, it seems," Lee replied, reviewing the data. "Their entire culture appears to blur the lines between aggression, pleasure, and survival behaviors." The hologram shifted again, showing humans in what appeared to be a ritual called Black Friday. Hundreds of beings fought viciously over consumer goods, pushing, shoving, and sometimes tackling each other for objects of questionable necessity. "This is madness," Park declared, his tentacles curling in distress. "They wage war over fabric and small electronic devices. Look at this," Observer Han called out, bringing up another transmission. The screen filled with images of humans doing something called planking, lying flat on various dangerous or inappropriate surfaces. They risk their lives for no apparent gain, just to create images. The final transmission showed humans gathered around screens, watching other humans perform activities. But instead of learning or analyzing, they simply watched. For hours. Some even consumed large quantities of food while doing so. "Conclusion," Senior Advisor Huang announced, standing tall. "The beings of Earth are suffering from a collective mental disorder. They seek pain, create conflict, and waste their energy on meaningless activities. This species represents a potential threat to galactic stability." "Agreed," Council Member Yoon added. "We must establish immediate surveillance. If this madness spreads to other worlds, it could destabilize the entire galactic community." Begin construction of observation posts immediately. Earth must be contained. The council voted unanimously. Within days, construction began on a hidden observation facility on Earth's moon. The beings tasked with monitoring these strange creatures had no idea that their own surveillance equipment was already being photographed by human amateur astronomers who posted the images on their social media platforms with labels like "weird cloud formation" and "UFO maybe." The greatest misunderstanding in galactic history had begun. The council prepared for what they believed would be humanity's inevitable self-destruction through their apparently suicidal cultural practices. They failed to recognize the patterns behind the chaos, the joy in challenge, the satisfaction in competition, the human drive to push boundaries not from madness but from curiosity and the simple desire to feel alive. As the observation post powered up, monitoring equipment focused on Earth, its operators remained blissfully unaware that their subjects were about to surprise them in ways they never imagined. The humans continued their daily lives, completely unaware that an entire galactic civilization was watching them with growing terror, convinced they were witnessing the most unpredictable species in the known universe. Observer Kim stared at the data screen until his eyes burned. 3 months of monitoring Earth had produced 18,000 records of what he categorized as voluntary self-harm behaviors. They call it exercise, he reported to the council through the quantum link. Every single day, millions of humans enter specialized buildings called gyms. Inside, they use devices designed to cause muscle pain and fatigue. His colleague, Observer Park, nodded gravely. The most disturbing part is their facial expressions. They smile while doing it. They pay currency to experience this pain. The council chamber buzzed with concerned murmurs as the observers shared their latest findings. The holographic display showed humans running on moving platforms, lifting heavy metal objects and contorting their bodies into impossible positions they labeled yoga. But physical self-torture is only part of their madness, continued Kim. They've created a global communication network where they actively seek conflict. Watch. The display shifted to show what humans called social media. Thousands of beings argued simultaneously about topics ranging from the proper way to consume pizza to whether their planet orbited the sun clockwise or counterclockwise. They create these conflicts deliberately, Park explained, his voice filled with bewilderment. When none exist naturally, they invent them. We documented 47 arguments yesterday about the color of a simple garment. Councilmember Yang leaned forward, studying the data. You're saying they argue for pleasure? Precisely, Kim confirmed. And when they grow tired of real conflicts, they consume fictional ones. They have an entire industry dedicated to showing them dramatic confrontations, violent scenarios, and emotional trauma. They call it entertainment. The display changed to show clips of human television programs. Dramatic scenes of people crying, screaming, and experiencing loss played across the hologram. The council members watched in silence as humans chose to view these depictions nightly. They voluntarily exposed themselves to stress hormones, Observer Lee reported, consulting her notes. We've measured physiological responses during their viewing of these programs. Heart rates increase, stress markers spike, yet they continue watching. Some even consume special foods while doing so. Speaking of food consumption, Park added, bringing up new data, their eating behaviors defy all logic. Watch this. The screen filled with images of competitive eating contests.